When you think about what a handbag brand does best, like Louis Vuitton or Hermes or Coach, what do you think of first? And is that really the thing that they do best? Or if you thought a little harder about it, could you come up with something else? I would bet that there are some brands where most of us would agree that particular brands do this one thing the very best. But I'm sure there are other brands where we would disagree wildly. Today I've chosen 7 brands, a mix of luxury and contemporary. And I'm going to tell you what I think each of them does the very best. Some of my answers will not surprise you, but I think that some will. Those brands are Coach, Chanel, Gucci, Fendi, Hermes, Hermes, and Louis Vuitton. And I would love for this to be a conversation because I know that we were not going to have all the same answers. So as you're watching, I hope you'll be thinking about it too and what you think a brand does best, even if it's a brand I don't mention. And I hope you'll leave it in the comment section so we can have a conversation about it. And more than that, I think it would be helpful, especially for people who may not be familiar with some brands, because as luxury lovers, we tend to like the best of the best. So if we're looking for something in particular, it can be helpful to know what other people think is the best of the best. I think this will be a fun one, so stay tuned. And welcome, I'm Autumn Beckman, and I am here to help you live your most luxurious life within your budget. I post new videos on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, so please make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of those, and so you don't miss my daily posts here on YouTube, where I share the best sales of the day and fabulous handbags that I find. Also, don't miss my website, autumnbeckman.com. I will have that linked in the description box below. On the shop page there, you can find all the things that I have for sale, like handbags and small goods, but also my planner pages. I just dropped a bunch of new pages for the My Handbag Collection organizer, and I dropped an advent calendar. I made an advent calendar this year. It's 25 days. It has a lot, like a ton of planner pages, things I haven't even released yet. I'm hoping to get those up in the next few days. So it'll have pages for the My Handbag Collection organizer. It'll have calendar pages, which you can choose the layout of. It'll have productivity pages and more. And it will also have a handful of planner accessories like a binder and some pens, various things like that. If you go to the listing, everything is listed. I haven't officially launched it yet, but it is there for pre-sale. You can read all about it. And I will do the official launch video for all of these pages in about 2 weeks. But a lot is already available on the website if you're interested. These 7 brands today, I will also have links for all of them in the description box below. And let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna go through these in alphabetical order, which means that we're starting with Chanel. Chanel, as with all of these brands, does several things very well. What I think that they do the very best is quilted bags. Now, this is probably one of the more obvious things that I'll be listing here for you today because Chanel is obviously known for their quilted bags. I think they do it especially well on the reissue, which is what this is. This is a 227 size, and I'll bring it closer so you can see. If you have never seen a Chanel quilted bag in person, they are really spectacular. I especially love this one with the metallic bronze and the aged crinkled leather. I really love that look on this bag. With the reissues, it's just the right amount of puffy for me, whereas some of the classic flaps, just for my personal preference, are a little too puffy. But of course, they do those very well too. Here, I'll show you this one too. This is the reissue clutch, also in a metallic leather, but this time it's not the wrinkled, it's more smooth. Chanel just does this so well. Next up is Coach. What is Coach the very best at? This one may be less obvious. I think that they're the best at revitalizing the past, and they do that in 2 ways. One is that they take older designs from their own brand and they redesign them and modernize those bags. One they did that with earlier this year is this, the Coach Soho. This is the original, and here is the reimagined one that they released earlier this year. Both beautiful bags, and Coach has a long history of doing this. They also just released the Safari bag, which is a remake of the original Safari bag, and it's actually the 4th remake. I'm gonna have a video on this soon where I show you all 4 versions. The second thing they do, besides redesigning previous designs, is they're very big on sustainability. They do this in lots of different ways. Perhaps the most visible to customers is their Preloved program. They will buy back old bags, at least some of them, They will restore old bags, whether they're vintage or more contemporary, and resell them on their website. We won't talk about how much they charge for that. They will upcraft bags, where they take bags and add things to them. They'll take scrap materials that are left over from other products and create new things, like hang tags or valet trays. And most recently, they've started using those scraps to make new handbags. My next video on Thursday on Coach, if you don't know this, I do a Thursday Coach series, will be all about that new collection. It's very cool and I've only heard great things about it so far. Subscribe so you don't miss it. The next brand is Fendi, and what I think that they do the very best is fearlessness. What on earth do I mean by that? Well, I think that of all the luxury handbag brands, Fendi has the most variety of materials and colors. They never seem afraid of anything, combining materials or colors, and I think that's especially evident if you go through their made-to-order program to design your own bag, which is not something that I have done, but I and many of you have been privy that process through people who have shown it on YouTube, like Dale's Addiction. I will link one of her videos below where she talks about this. They give you a large variety of things to choose from, and they don't give you any limitations on what you can do with those materials, or if they do, they're very minimal limitations. Whereas I've heard there are some other brands that are very limited in what you can do. Fendi gives you, as the customer, the freedom to design whatever bag you want and whatever combination of materials or colors you want. They don't have to run it by their design people first to approve whether it's Fendi appropriate. And they do so many amazing things on their own in their design teams. Just look at the variety of the Fendi baguettes as one example. Or something like this. This Fendi peekaboo, absolutely covered in sequins and in beads in a multitude of colors. It's gorgeous. This is what I'm talking about. The color, the texture, it is stunning. And not many brands do things like this. And I don't think anyone does it quite like Fendi. Next up is Gucci. Now for me, when I think of Gucci, my mind actually doesn't go first to handbags, it goes to their fashion. And I specifically think of outfits like this. And what I think that Fendi does the very best is gaudiness. And I mean that in a loving way. Fendi has an amazing ability to combine colors and patterns that most people would never put together, but they make it work. Now, I'm not saying that people would walk down the street like this. I think you have to be a certain personality to wear these kinds of things, but it does also translate to handbags. And I have one that I think is gaudy, and that is this, my Gucci dog bag. This is the Dionysus Hobo. I'll bring it closer. Now, while the color palette on this bag is neutral and subdued, these giant dog patches are not so much. I think there you can see the stitching a little better. It even has some metallic stitching with the gold there. Nor is this subtle. That's a pretty gaudy buckle. I love Fendi's gaudiness, and even though it's not always my style, in fact it rarely is, I appreciate it from an artistic perspective, and I admire the design team at Gucci for being able to pull that off. Next up is Henry's Leather Goods, and I'm going to bet that a lot of you don't know what Henry's Leather Goods is. You've never heard of them. I've done a few videos on them, but it's been a while. They are sort of a subsidiary of Dooney & Bourke. It's a company that Peter Dooney of Dooney & Bourke founded himself. It's more of a small boutique company than Dooney & Bourke is. And what I think they do the very best, just like on this little bag, this is the fold-over crossbody from Henry's, is they make high-quality bags out of high-quality leathers and metals for very reasonable prices, unlike the bigger luxury brands. The quality of these bags is just as good as some bags from some of those luxury brands, but at a fraction of the cost. I'll bring this one closer. Their leathers are from Italy or from America, and they're made in either place. It's my understanding that their metals is palladium, and I think they have beautiful designs that are often kind of minimal and remind me a lot of Hermes designs. They look to me like things that Hermes could produce, but they don't look like copies of Hermes bags. So remember, I will have them linked below. So if you're not familiar with them, make sure you check them out. And I'll also link at least one of my Henry's videos so you can have a closer look at one of the bags. And speaking of Hermes, next up is Hermes. I think when most of us think about Hermes, our minds immediately go to the Birkin or the Kelly. Those very high-end, very expensive handbags. And that is not what I'm going to talk about today. Partly because I think that there are other brands that do bags just as nice for a lot less. partly because I don't have any of those bags to be able to show you and really speak to them in depth, but also because I think there's one thing that they do better than anyone else. And if you know what I tend to buy from Hermes, you know exactly what I'm about to show you. It is silk scarves. I say this about every time I talk about their silk scarves. Hermes does them the very best. I have silk scarves from other brands, Louis Vuitton, Gucci, Fendi, Tiffany's, Ferragamo, Dior. No one does silk scarves like Hermes. First of all, the silk itself is heavier than any of the others. Secondly, they have, in my opinion, the best designs because they hire incredible artists to design their scarves. Third, the printing of the colors and the lines is always so precise, and their colors are more vibrant than I've ever seen anywhere else. Just absolutely everything about them is superior to the silk scarves from any other brand that I have ever looked at. And they're often cheaper than the other brands, especially if you're looking at Twillies. You can never go wrong with an Hermes silk scarf. And that brings us to Louis Vuitton. There are actually two things that I think Louis Vuitton does the very best. One of them I can't speak to in depth because I don't have any of those pieces, and that is their trunks. I have been able to see them in person. They are exquisite. They're made of solid wood, covered in their canvas and leather, with studs. Everything's done by hand. They're absolutely incredible. But what is more accessible to most of us, and what I think they do better than any other brand that does this, is their coated canvas. Of course. Louis Vuitton is known for their coated canvas handbags. A lot of people who aren't very familiar with the brand think that this is leather. It is not. It is canvas with whatever print printed on it, and then coated in some kind of proprietary plasticky coating. Now I will say, even though they do this better than anyone else, it's not without problems. There have been people who've had issues with that coating peeling. However, overall, they do it beautifully. And I also hear some people complain, why would I buy a canvas bag when I can get a leather bag at that price point? Well, it's because this has a lot of value as a great material. I don't mean monetary value. I mean, it's a fantastic material for handbags. It's pliable, so you can make any shape with it. Since it's coated, it's weatherproof. That doesn't mean your vachetta is weatherproof, but if you get damier ben with the coated leather, you're good. And it can be done in bags and small goods. All kinds of things can be done with this coated canvas. It's very hardy. It holds up forever. In fact, my oldest Louis Vuitton piece, which is right here on the shelf behind me, is this little guy. This is the Mini Speedy HL. This is made in the 1980s, and it's just in beautiful condition. Obviously, the vachetta has some patina on it, but the canvas is immaculate. Oh, and it's super lightweight too. And now I want to know what you think each of these brands or other brands does the very best. Please let me know in the comment section below, and while you're down there, check out the description box to find links for all these brands and for my website where you can check out the advent calendar and my new planner pages and any handbags and accessories I have listed too. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Hope to see you back here next time, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye.